pretty well. But they come to the point where all they can do is try to insult me, then they start to retaliate and to insult people who link to the site. So if somebody mentions my site or mentions my name, they'll go to that person and start to bully that person because he mentioned me. And that's kind of an insulting, and that's a really, weird tactic. They start to go to people and they start to create these soft puppets. One of them, such an account, is only active once in a few months, and then he goes to people who know me and he tries to incite them against me in a really strange, pathetic way. I don't really know what to do about that because I don't really want to get involved with these people and to feed them, but it's.
I mean, the thing we're trying to, for the listeners, the thing we're trying to, I'm certainly trying to draw out of this is not so much the fact that we're complaining about people that troll us, because that's something that happens to everybody who has a website or a blog or posts on a forum. It will always happen. What I'm certainly wanting people to draw from this is look beyond the superficial tweets and comments and derogatory remarks, and actually ask yourself, why are these people, or why is anybody making comments like this about essentially a piece of software? Myself
I
and Roy.
Lots of myths and lots of very nice sound bites, and these relate to the. I wish we would return back to the subject we started with, and that's to do with market share. I mean, things like the 1% market share with Linux, you get insulted for suggesting it has more than 1% market share. But it does have more. I mean, respectable analysts who have all the reasons to be hostile towards Linux because Microsoft pays them wages in terms of, they pay them salaries to do contract work, to produce those so-called white papers. They tell you that the market share of Linux, based on what they saw, especially in East Europe and in places like South America, it's very high. So internationally even, they say, what I've known for a while, that based on the sales of Macs, people will tell you the shipping numbers of Macs, and they know the exact numbers of computers they sell because of the way they sell these things. It only accounts for 4% of the shipping volume worldwide. So Apple, if you count how many computers are sold worldwide, how many computers are being built to have hard drives and I suppose screens is kind of a periphery. But if you count how many computers are being shipped and how many Apple claims to be selling as an Apple computers, it's only about 4%. And this is exactly what IDC is now saying. And this is quoted by what I call a Microsoft booster, one of them in the Seattle Times, which is a really kind of a Microsoft fan base type press. And this is a blog about Microsoft. And they are the ones that tell you that IDC says Apple has got 4% market share and is expected to have within 5 years or 4 years 5% market share. And then they tell you, well, Linux has got 4% market share, which is, the same as Apple. And they tell you that. If you look at the web statistics, which are based on US market share, of course, you'll see maybe Apple with, 5%, 10%, whatever. And not many people use Linux because they can afford to get the computer with Windows, and they don't have to go through the hassle of buying a new computer to spec up the computer for whatever, Windows 7 or Vista. So this is one of the examples, going back to the subject, of people being very tied to consensus, which is built around lies. We have the same issues in politics sometimes. You're not allowed to say certain things which are not conforming to the so-called consensus, which comes from certain dubious sources or doesn't necessarily have the necessary body of evidence to support it. Going back to Mono, a person was looking to move away from Java because of the JCP collapsing. And he was asking around, and he was looking at my site, among other sites, to try and learn the facts and to try to base his, to test his knowledge about what he knows about Mono and the risks and pitfalls and threats and patents and things like that. And then probably shouldn't say trolls because it's a derogatory way of approaching them, but people who are insulting me came to the person and again tries to punish him. Don't link to this site, it's terrible, he's lying, he's a terrible person. And they don't give him examples, but they basically say stop linking to that site because we cannot actually counter it. Apparently they're too afraid of people linking to the site. This person was looking for something to replace Java. And he has all kinds of options. You could use Python, you could use C++, or could use PHP, depending on the situation. So anyway, these people, what they should do is start with the facts and try to build up on evidence and be very skeptical about what they see and check the links. And the one good way to do that is to go to what I usually recommend to people is if you have access to the web, go to the Wikipedia first and then scroll down to the references and try to use the ones which you think are of value, because they tend to be of high magnitude and tend to be more scientific. It's not really linking to blog posts and a person who just kind of, wrote an how-to about a program or wrote on behalf of the companies, or a press release and things like that. They tend to have reasonably notable things which benchmark, assess, and perform a comparison between two computer languages, for example. So, that's about it. I think about fun. I think we've
yeah. No, I mean, I think for everybody listening as well, that's the challenge, isn't it? I think if I would hope there would be some people who would get past the petty insults and actually start answering some of the questions that are being posed. I certainly, speaking for myself, and I don't really touch the subject of mono very, very rarely, but certainly speaking in general, I'm sure Roy would love a proper debate if his points were answered. And I think the issue that we've got here is that points are being made and questions are being asked, and instead of those questions having an answer, innuendo and insults being thrown back. So
I mean, look what happens to WikiLeaks right now, and they actually try to deliver cables. And if you look at the press, most of the press is about a certain person, one person, who has almost nothing to do with the cables. I suppose Bradley Manning is the one that has a lot to do with the cables. He's the person who leaked the cables, not the person who published them. But that's part of the tactics, is to transform the debate from one which surrounds the controversy and the scandals to one around a person. So then you can smear the person. And what I found now is they try to associate Julian Assange. They try to find people who happen to be connected to him, or people who are helping WikiLeaks, and then try to find dirt on them, and then try to link it to Assange or linking it to WikiLeaks and try to find some negative thing to say about it. It's kind of concerning because I know the situation. I see how people will try to find me talking to a certain person or replying to a certain person, and then using this person's actions on separate notes and try to accuse me of doing that same thing. But this is, anyway, that's just to say that you have to be careful when people start to attack the messenger or the platform, and not actually addressing stick to the content and stick to the stories and try to find the facts and the data points. And then you usually will find, if lots of people make a lot of noise, when you touch a certain nerve or a certain point, it usually means you're on the right topic, and this is what hurts them, and this is what they try to kind of push you away from, so you don't touch that sensitive spot. So,
well, to close off this one, what we'll end on for this particular section is that if, according to Cola at the moment, OS Linux Advocacy, it's got the Linux market share at 0.87, I think it was, by some of the more dubious posters in there. So it's one of these things. It depends on who you ask and who you speak with as to what figure you get for the Linux market share. Yeah. So I hope
don't trust this firm called Net Applications. It's funded by Microsoft.
Well, I would hope at the end of this listening to this section, those people that don't follow the stats or maybe haven't had a previous interest in market share take a more global and more sort of look at the larger picture, because it's not as clear cut, and just because somebody said it's at X percent, that doesn't mean it is. So moving on to the next topic, Roy, I believe you've got another.
Yeah, well, I have quite a lot of them because we haven't done a show in a while, and to be honest, I'm just scrolling down. I'm just looking at the past few days, and I'm trying to find things for us to cover if we need to. One thing I found this morning is, actually I found it last night, wrote about it this morning, was Goldman Sachs has said that Microsoft is going to face a very difficult year in 2011. And Goldman Sachs, for those who don't know, has as an investor, it has Bill Gates, using the Gates Foundation to give them basically money for profit reasons. And Goldman Sachs, as far as I can remember, used to invest in Microsoft, and they used to recommend Microsoft, and they used to play along with this company. And this is really interesting because now